Okay, so in the next part of the interview series for the Southern Nature Art Exhibition, I'm speaking to Shelley Stevens, who is a mixed media artist, obviously specialising in wildlife. And we're going to be discussing her art and how it all came to be and the exhibition, of course. So, can I first of all ask, how did it all start for you? How long have you been interested in art?
Well, to be honest, I've been painting ever since I was really young. It's something that I've just always done. I've always been painting. I've always been drawing. It very much started with my granddad was very artistic. So, on rainy days when we weren't allowed to play out with our mates, then we would sit and we would paint or draw, or we even did some sort of stained glass work in the shed. And so it's something that I've just always done. And then it's always been more of a kind of like a hobby to start with, and then and then I kind of like became more of a full-time artist in sort of field of tattooing. So I was tattooing for a long time and seemed to sort of specialize more in the portraits of people and animals within the tattooing. And then obviously that was kind of like my passion in that field. So then it was only natural that I would start to sort of paint those subjects as well. So yeah, I mean, here we are.
Yeah, that's incredible. So what would you say is your influences? So where do you take influence from, or would it be your inspiration started from your grandfather and things? Or
I think it's a mixture. I certainly, my mum always used to have these abstract paintings around the house that were done by a friend of hers who was an artist, and I think she knew him back in college. And I always loved them. So I'd grown up sort of looking at them and eventually inherited them. But they were very much an abstract painting that were, lent towards the nature side of things. So they were heavily sort of animal based. So I was always really interested in abstract and colour and animals. It was just part of my childhood. And then I think I kind of just started to go that way with the sort of tattooing. But I really loved to, with regards to sort of like different people and different animals, I just kind of, I'll see something and go, oh my God, I've got to paint it. So it's, it varies. If I see something and I love it, then I really want to paint it. So I don't tend to sort of, stay in one box, as it were.
So it's very much a spontaneous process. You just see what happens.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, very much so.
Oh, cool. So as part of your development from being a child artist to then a tattooist to then an artist, you've gone down the self-taught route to kind of taught yourself all your skills. So why did you decide to do that?
I think it was more, it wasn't a conscious decision. Okay. It was just something that kind of formed from one thing to another. So it was very much, it was something that I always had a passion for. I always had interest in. I always enjoyed doing. So it was only kind of natural that I would end up choosing something artistic as a career. But I was never quite sure where I kind of fitted in with that sort of creative career. So I kind of fell into it naturally. And then it was more a case of, rather than, I'd done the sort of, YouTube courses and, videos and stuff like that to go, oh, I wonder how you get that to that. But also as well, it's just practice. It's just keep doing what you love. And eventually, as with anything, you just see it start to evolve.
Yeah, I suppose the practice makes perfect always lines up, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's certainly more with the painting. I love the freedom of it. Tattooing is quite restrictive. Yeah. And you've got to be, very accurate and be very confident in your application and know that what you're doing in that particular area is going to be right. Whereas with painting, and I mean, I don't know about other people, but certainly for myself, my paintings go through stages, and they go through quite an ugly stage, because I always tend to sort of get pulled back to the realistic side, and then no, I don't want to do that, and I try and pull myself away from it. So it kind of goes backwards and forwards. So I'm always constantly kind of working a painting, which you can't do with a tattoo. So I think I really love that about painting. It's just, it gives me a lot of freedom.
Yeah, because I was going to say, obviously, with a tattoo, you'll have people come in with their own ideas. It's not really like a blank canvas
Absolutely.
where you can. I'm sure there will be people who'll be like, "Well, you have your freedom, your artistic freedom," but there
Yeah,
must be some limit
very few and far
somewhere.
between. Yeah,
Yeah,
very few and far between. It tends to be that, people have an idea about what they want as a tattoo, and then you've got to produce that. Whereas with the paintings, I get to choose. I get to choose what subject I want to do. I get to choose what I want it to look like, and I get to choose the colours and, the size and everything. So for me, I think that's kind of why I've definitely steered more towards the sort of the painting more regularly than the tattooing. And yeah, and with regards to kind of like the learning process of it, I think it's one of those things you learn by doing. So yes, you're going to get certain tips and techniques from courses and colleges, and but I think you've got to. For me personally, I'm a doer, so I need to do it, and I need to make the mistake and then correct that mistake in order to go, that's how I achieve that.
So would you say that's like an advantage of being self-taught, is you can choose how you experiment and things like that, and how you develop?
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well that really aids to the freedom side of the painting, and it's like I really try not to get caught up on what I think other people want to see, and what other people would like to buy. I paint what I want to paint, the way I want to paint it, because that's what I love to do. And then if other people love them and they want to buy them and hang them in their houses, then that's great. That's the bonus. But with regards to the actual creating, it's all my choice. Maybe I'm a control freak. I don't know.
No, I can understand, especially say if you have been like a tattoo artist where you have, people with a clear vision in their head of what they want, and you can be as free, whereas now you have that chance. Were there
absolutely.
Were there any disadvantages to being self-taught, did you find, or
I think things that probably took me longer. There were certainly things that I struggled with that I think had I done a painting course or gone to art, done art in university, that I could have definitely, I would have got there quicker by taking someone else's advice. So I know that, in my paintings, I like to use different colours. And obviously, if you don't get the kind of shape of something unless you've got the right value of colour, so it doesn't necessarily matter what colour it is, as long as it's the right value. And I certainly struggled with mixing up my colour palettes, because I don't even follow a regime with that. I don't have an idea of colour. I literally will sit, I have an idea of what I want to paint. I will sit with my big box of paints in front of me, and I'll just root through them and go, I like that one. And then I'll mix up a colour palette. And sometimes it works really well and I get all the colours that I want in the right values. And other times it's not so much. I go straight from really dark to really light. And then, of course, I'm going to struggle to get the midtones in. So I think had I done a course, I think I would have learned what my midtones are and what I needed to do in order to achieve that a lot quicker. But again, as with everything, you keep practicing it and you get to know.
Exactly. And it's like with that, I guess with that freedom as well that you do have, is you can then take your time experimenting. It's not like you're on a set regime either.
Absolutely.
So that's good. So what would you have any advice for anyone thinking about giving like art a go, or teaching themselves skills? Would you have any specific advice?
I would say it's just crack on and do it. Just, you don't necessarily have to go and spend a fortune on supplies. You can go to sort of local art shops, or the big stores that sell kind of art products, buy cheap canvases, buy cheap paint, cheap brushes, and just put brush to canvas. And just, you never know until you've done it. You don't know what you're going to be able to produce. And yes, there's going to be areas of it that you don't like and that you're not happy with, but don't give up on it. Keep working it. Every single painting that I do goes through a stage where I think, this isn't going well. This isn't going to look right. Oh my God, this is not how I wanted it to go. But if you keep at it, and the beauty with paint is you can keep adding it and keep changing it. And then all of a sudden it starts to come to life. So don't get disheartened. Go and get some stuff. Start painting, drawing, whatever it is that you want to do, and just experiment with it and have fun. And don't put yourself in a box. Play with it.
Yeah.
And do what you want to do, as opposed to what you would think others would expect of you.
No,
I would say is probably the best advice I could give.
Yeah, definitely. So for you, what's your favourite thing to paint? Obviously behind you have your elephants and a penguin and a seascape, so there's quite a big variety there. What's your favourite or preference?
I think I switch. It depends what mood I'm in, but I always tend to go from, I'll either paint a person, an animal, abstract, or I just started playing with landscapes. So I'm just kind of broaching into landscape. So that's certainly something that I want to experiment with more. But yeah, my go-tos are animals or people.
Okay, so what's your favourite animal to paint?
Oh, I really don't have a preference. I really don't have a preference. Some I find a lot easier than others. I think probably the elephants and lions and things like that. I think I probably understand the shape of a face and the eye and the proportions better, because I used to tattoo a lot of them. But also as well, you know, there's some that I look at. It's like my sea turtle. I don't know. I've got it down here. It's actually they're way easier to tattoo than they are to paint, and it's not even finished. And to me, it's going through that ugly stage, and yeah, and I've been working on that for probably best part of 2 weeks. Whereas, you know, sort of like other things I can do in a day, and they just kind of fall onto the canvas, as it were. But I suppose we all have days like that. But yeah, I wouldn't say I have a favorite animal, but yeah, all, I think.
So obviously with the tattooing, and you say you have experience of lions and elephants quite often, has been an advantage to you of having that experience before to then bring them into your art now?
Yes, definitely. I think it's much different when you're tattooing something to painting something. And I think sometimes, you know, for me personally, I find that I have to work a painting a bit harder than I do a tattoo. A lot of the time, the needles and ink and etc., they do the job for you, whereas, you know, you've got to work the paint to get it the way you want it to be. But definitely with regards to things like proportions and light source and shadows and stuff like that, I think that's definitely where one crosses over onto the other and gives you a better understanding.
So the skills for being a tattoo artist, what skills do you require to start there?
Being able to draw.
Right.
That is being able to draw, and just drawing, understanding, obviously depending on there are so many skill sets within the tattooing world, and just being sort of like choosing the area that you particularly want to specialize in or you feel comfortable with, and just practice, drawing. But at the same time, it's also that having the confidence. I'd say if you spoke to any tattooist, they would say that in the initial stages, when they very first started out, it's having the confidence and the conviction in your ability to be able to put a needle in someone's skin and effectively mark them for the rest of their life. And if you allow your confidence to hold you back, that will show in your work. And I think when it blends over then to the painting, is that because I've already tattooed for 10 years, that I, you know, understand how kind of like you have to have that right, whereas I don't have that in a painting, so it doesn't matter. But certainly as far as tattooing is concerned, you've got to be artistic, you've got to be able to draw, you've got to be able to change your design on the fly. You know, everything works on a flat piece of paper, but when you put it on a body and it's curved, it's shaped, and you know people want it different, then you have to be able to adjust. So that's where your drawing skills are going to come in. But I think the confidence to be able to do that is probably the thing that most tattooists struggle with to start with.
Yeah. So has that like kind of perfectionism in a way, because obviously you have to be accurate in a tattoo because you have like a one-time go at it. Is that transferred over to your painting as well? Are you very accurate and you want to do it right first time, or do you like that then freedom that you can go over it again and again if you needed to?
I would say that it's a hinder to start with in a painting, because you want it to be accurate, and you're so trained and ingrained on accuracy. But then when I come into a painting and I want it to be more abstract, I have to constantly fight myself from trying to correct everything all of the time. And so I think sometimes that can be, it doesn't help with the painting, because you forget that you've got the freedom sometimes when you're in that kind of flow of painting and you're desperately trying to get that one little centimetre squared part of your painting absolutely spot on. And then you kind of catch yourself going, what am I doing? I've got the rest of the canvas to do. I can come back to that and it doesn't matter. So I think sometimes the perfectionist and the accuracy within the paintings can hinder the painting.
Yeah,
in my experience anyway.
I can only imagine it must be different. Like with a blank canvas, obviously you have a blank canvas, whereas the human body is already, like you say, got its shapes and its bumps and its curves. How is that different? So how do you, well, obviously it's very different, but how do you feel about them comparatively? How do you find each media or canvas?
I prefer don't get me wrong, I've loved tattooing and I've really enjoyed doing it, and I've definitely learned a lot from it, but I prefer painting. I prefer a canvas. It doesn't have any opinions. So you can if there's painters, I'm sure many other artists would tell you the same. There's probably a lot of paintings that they set out to do that haven't gone the way that they wanted to. They put them to one side with maybe a view of coming back to them later, and there they've stayed and they've moved on to something else. And I think because you have the ability to do that with a painting, and it's whereas when you're painting something, for me personally, others might tell you different, I've only got to get it to a place where I'm happy with it and I love it, and then it's not my responsibility for other people to love it. Whereas in tattooing, it is my responsibility. So it's that being able to go, okay, well, I'm going to give you a piece of art and you don't get to see what it looks like until I've done it and it's permanent. Whereas with the painting, it's already done before the viewer gets to look at it and decide whether they like it or not. And if they don't like it, they can walk away. So and I think I suppose it comes back to that freedom and kind of back to it's my choice. So I definitely prefer painting than over tattooing.
I can even it's the permanence aspect. It's like I didn't even think about it from a tattoo artist's perspective. Like obviously that's going to be your responsibility, and someone there is attached to the canvas, which I never would have thought about. Wow.
And to be honest, I think it's probably that responsibility which has led me to walk away really from tattooing. I still do some, certainly not full time the way that I used to, because I found that I carried a lot of weight on my shoulders with the responsibility, and I would get very stressed. And if a tattoo hadn't necessarily gone, the client might love it, but if it hasn't gone the way I wanted it to do, it would keep me up at night. And I found that it was a very heavy burden to carry. And by slapping on a bit of paint onto a canvas and getting covered in it, and and being happy, is definitely something that I again comes back to that freedom of being able to create in the way that I want to, and without having the stress and the burden and the responsibility of marking someone permanently and hoping to dear God that they love it.
Of course. So talking of paintings, what is your
Yeah.
process for creating a piece of artwork? Do you sketch first, or do you research first, or how does it all become a beautiful painting like that behind you?
I think, in all honesty, I tend to be very. I try not to restrict myself. So I will decide that I want to do something. So whether it be elephants, and then I will kind of go, okay, well, I'll have a look maybe online and some different photograph references for, the kind of scene that I want it to be. And I have taken a canvas and then done a base layer of that, on the canvas, to sort of ground the canvas, and then spent ages trying to sketch it and make sure it's all right. And then in other days, I'll just literally take a canvas, mix up my paints and start painting. And I found that I tend to do that more and more often now than being really restricted with drawing everything first. And I don't always get it right. Sometimes the eyes will be too big, or the nose won't be big enough, or, so it doesn't always go according to plan, but I can change it. So, yeah, so I tend to just kind of go straight from paintbrush to canvas nowadays, and then just keep adding different colors and shapes and shadows and like I say, push through the ugly stage until it finally sort of starts to come together at the end.
Yeah, I guess that's the beauty of the freedom of it, is you can decide your process as well. And just if you feel like having to go one day, or if you feel like, no, I'm not going to look at it today, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And even with regards to my color palette, I think if you speak to a lot of people that, paint, they will have like a color journal where they'll have mixed a couple of colors together, and they'll be like, I really like this color, so I'm going to make a note of it. And, and that is, I think, is an amazing thing to do. Personally, I've never done one, and I'm probably a lot of people would maybe scoff at that and think that I should, but I don't plan anything really. I like it to be, the whole process to be spontaneous. So yeah, I'll have a subject matter, and that's about as far as it goes. And then I will just literally pick whatever colors I'm in the mood for that day, mix them up. Some I'll like, some I won't, some I'll use more than others, and see what happens.
Amazing. I'd love to do that. It just sounds so nice, just doing that.
You should do it. Yeah. So then I think it goes back to when I used to paint with my granddad, and and a lot of the times, and certainly when painting more for a hobby, I'd end up throwing away the brushes and paint with my hands. And my husband always laughed at me, because I'll come out from doing a painting and I will have it in my hair, I will be covered in it in my clothes, it'll be all up my arms. Because to me, if it doesn't make you feel like you're a kid again, and kind of getting that enjoyment and that freedom, and the fact that it just doesn't matter what you produce, that's where the true love and the fun is. So yeah, I think it's kind of like, when I paint, I want to feel like I'm 10 again, and most of the time I achieve it.
Is that why you love being an artist like full time now? Because of that feeling?
Yeah, it makes me happy. It just really makes me happy. And don't get me wrong, I have frustrations, and if I really want to, and I suppose particularly if I'm doing a commission for somebody, then obviously, again, you're coming back to that, you're trying to meet their expectations. So then I'll probably be a little bit more serious about it. But, on a general day to day, when, I try and paint every single day, when I'm doing that, I'll just kind of try and be, loose and free and have fun with it and be a kid again.
Yeah. So with commissions then, is it bringing it back to that slightly restricted, but you still have enough of that creative freedom as well, or how does it work?
Yeah, definitely. So the commissions that I tend to be sort of like pet portraits. Right. So you kind of sort of still very animal based, but I don't. I'll ask a client what kind of size they would like, so if they've got an idea where in their house they want to hang the painting, so that will help me choose what size to do the painting. They will obviously provide me a photograph of their pet, and then I paint it the way I want to paint it. And they've got no obligation to buy it. So if at the end of it that they look at that painting and they it's not what they expected, or they don't love it, they don't like it, then they've got the choice to walk away and say, I'm sorry, it's not for me. But I try not to, it's going to sound awful, but I try not to give the client too much input or choice, because then that's only going to restrict me, and I don't want to be restricted. So, you know, if they love it and they're happy to pay for it, then brilliant. I've done what I've set out to achieve. If they don't, it's not a problem. They don't have to pay me. They can source someone else to do their portrait for them. And, you know, I've experienced something in that process.
Yeah, of course. I suppose every day is a learning day then. With art, it's more practice, it's more chance of being creative. And
very much so. Yeah, very much so.
So yeah. Would it be a good guess to say your favorite medium would then be like acrylics on like canvas? Is that what you say?
Yeah, I always tend to lean towards acrylic, simply because I'm exceptionally impatient and they dry quick. So yeah, and it doesn't go much further than that really. It's I can continue, because I do a lot of layering of different colours, and I don't want the colours to muddy as I'm adding another layer. I know that the acrylics that I use, they're pretty much dry within 10 minutes. So if I do a bit on a painting that I don't like, or I don't like the colour that I've used, I can go and do another part somewhere else and then come back to it and change it 10 minutes later, because I know the paint's going to be dry. So, and it really doesn't go any deeper than that. That's why I like using acrylics. They dry quicker, and yeah, I can spend longer on one painting.
Nice. So would you be up for trying other ones, or have you tried other ones in the past that you haven't got on with?
I do think, yeah, I potentially probably have a play with watercolor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with regards to oils, I don't know, maybe, I'll never say never, but I have kind of played around with a sort of on the abstract stuff with sort of airbrushing, but again, it is too restrictive for me. Certainly when doing an abstract piece, I know it works perfectly for some people, and there are some people out there that create absolutely phenomenal airbrush work. It's not me. I'm way too let's make a mess and have fun with it, and you know, and I tend to kind of like put my airbrush down and go off and do something else and forget to clean it out, and then my airbrush doesn't work anymore. So so I sort of I'll use it every now and again if there's a certain effect that I want on something. But yeah, I'd probably have a play with watercolor at some point. I love the look of watercolors.
Yeah, definitely. So has the move from, I guess, tattooing to more permanent art, that's literally the worst, that's a juxtaposition on canvas or instead of painting, has that been very beneficial to you? Have you found that, like, I don't know if you're being like well-being and things as well, or
definitely, it's completely changed my life, completely changed. I think it was lockdown helped a lot, because obviously as a kind of close contact, we were all locked down, so we weren't working for a large part of last year. Obviously in the first lockdown we were closed from the March to the July, and then again in November, and then again after Christmas. And it was during those periods that I think that I really realised that actually I was so much happier because I was painting every day than tattooing. And I think it was probably that time that really made me realise that it's something that I want to do more of full time. And yeah, it's definitely changed my outlook. It was like I go back to that burden that I was carrying with tattooing and the stress that I was carrying when I switched over to painting full time. It just lifted the weight of the world off of my shoulders, and that just made me happier in general, which then obviously you're happier as a person, you're happier in your relationships and around other people. And yeah, so it's been a complete game changer.
So with lockdown, when I've spoken to other people, they've said, well, we were told, the general public, of try art or colouring for relaxing. Did you find it relaxing doing your paintings despite it being your job?
Yeah, I think because it was so different, it's like this newfound freedom, you know, sort of kind of, rather than, you know, when you're earning money as an artist, whether that be tattoo artist, painting, sculpture, whatever, when you're earning money as it, then obviously you've got to eat, you've got to pay rent, so you've got to do pieces that people want, and, you know, to be able to keep the pennies coming in. I think when everything was in lockdown, then you certainly had the time to go, no, this one's for me, so I'm going to do this for me. And you might look at it at the end of it and go, well, that didn't work, did it? You know, and it's, what an awful piece, I'll paint over that, of which I've got quite a few dotted around the house. But at the same time, it's it's kind of, it was quite liberating to be able to just sort of, you know, do what you want with no expectations.
Yeah, so you do paint for yourself then, so you have done your own pieces that you've kept?
Yes, yeah, definitely. There are some pieces that I kind of, you know, I've painted it because I wanted to, and then I think, I don't know if I want to sell that, I think I'm going to keep it. So yeah, there's and also for, you know, gifts for friends as well, you know, that they might not have commissioned something, but, you know, you know that they've got a really close bond with their dog or their horse or whatever. So yeah, just being able to go, I know I'm going to do this for somebody. So rather than it being for money or being for profit, you can just kind of do what you want.
So is that your advice just to everyone, of just do it for fun? I know we're locked down now, but that creativity.
But then I think you can take that into your life. I mean, something that both my husband and I are working on at the moment is we just bought an old minibus, and we're currently converting it into a kind of camper van mobile art studio. And as I say, I was kind of like getting more into the landscape things, and rather than kind of, you know, going, okay, well, I'm going to make a landscape up in my head, or I'm going to look at a photo reference and try and kind of cross-reference that, you know, I want to be able to look directly at it and then go, I'm going to paint that. So yeah, so we're kind of currently building a camper van sort of art studio, and I'm going to travel and paint as I go. So yeah, so then I'll be just, you know, looking at a landscape and going, that's really inspired me to paint it. So then I'll sit on the roof of my camper van and I'll paint the picture that I'm looking at in the way that I want to paint it, and yeah, move on to the next place and do the same.
Sounds like an amazing staycation plan. Like, it sounds gorgeous.
Yeah, and I think it is kind of like that, you know, just being able to, you know, look around and choose, you know, to whatever, whether it's a person, you know, you see someone and, you know, you might see somebody when you're just walking through the high street and go, wow, they've got really striking features, and you just take that inspiration. And people don't tend to like it when you just walk up to them and go, can I take a photo for a reference? So, but, you know, at the same time, it's kind of like, you know, there's beauty everywhere. So it's, I don't want to be restricted to kind of like, okay, well, I'm just going to paint what commissions other people want me to paint. I'm just going to look online for photographs for inspiration. I want to take the inspiration from the real world. So, but at the same time, it's getting out there and doing it, and being you know, being able to do it ourselves and when we want, how we want.
Would you do that with the animals as well? I guess you won't find penguins and elephants in the UK naturally.
No.
But no. Other animals would you be interested in if you were on your excursions? Or?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. You know, and I don't think it's any, I don't want to put myself, even with the, you know, kind of like people of the animals, I don't want to put myself in a box of saying, well, I paint elephants or lions or tigers or monkeys or whatever. You know, it's kind of like, you know, I mean, I've got a list of animals I'd like to paint. I'd love to paint a sloth, you know, I just think they're so super cute. And, you know, but at the same time, once you're on the road, you might see a really cute cow and think, oh my God, that cow with that background is something that I just want to put on canvas. So yeah, I'm going to pull over and I'm going to do it.
So that's just spontaneity, I suppose, of that, seeing what happens, what pops up. So would you plan to take a trip as and when we're allowed to further abroad to any specific places? Is there anywhere you'd really like to go to paint?
Definitely. We are hoping to go to through Finland and Norway, obviously if we're allowed in winter. If we're not able to do that this year, then we'll certainly do it next year. Down through Europe, I'd like to drive down to Greece. So yeah, kind of pretty much anywhere you're allowed to drive, we will probably end up going.
Nice.
That's the plan anyway.
Road trip.
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, that sounds incredible. A bit closer to home, I suppose. The art exhibition, the Southern Nature Art Exhibition.
Yes.
What can we be expecting, or why are you participating this year?
I think because it's local. I live in Fareham, so it's close to my heart because it's local area, and it's close to my heart because it's the subjects that I'd like to paint. So so I think it's kind of like it's one of those things that I just feel that we're quite well suited for each other because it's a passion for the same things. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it.
So what artwork can we expect from you this year?
So my elephants are going.
Lovely.
So they're going to be there. I have a couple of lions that are up on, you can't quite see them, but they're up on my wall behind me. They're going to be going. The landscape. And then I have two other pieces that I am yet to create, that I'm going to do as well. And I'm definitely want to do an orangutan. So that's something that I kind of has been on my list to paint. And then it's whether I do another landscape or, as I say, I started the sea turtle, but we've fallen out. So he's kind of like part done at the moment, and I'm just kind of like I've put him to one side. So whether he'll be finished in time or not, I don't know. And yeah, just see. I've got some empty canvases, and we'll see what they end up being filled with.
I look forward to seeing all of it, definitely. So if people want to find your work or to get a commission from you, do you have a website or social media that they
do?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a Facebook page, which is Shelley Stevens Art. My website is just shelleystevens.co.uk. It's Stevens with a B. So all artwork is available through my website and Instagram page, which again is Shelley Stevens Art.
Perfect. I don't have any more questions. So
okay,
that was all I had to ask. But thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you very much.
I love the elephants. I just love the purples in them. I think it's gorgeous, the colours.
Well, I think it's just the different colours. I don't know, can you see them all? They're actually quite big. So
oh wow. I didn't expect it to be that big.
Oh,
I
don't know if you can see.
It's so cute.
See the colours.
Beautiful.
So yeah, so that one will definitely be at the exhibition, and
I can't wait to see it.
And then we've got the like I say, we're not talking at the moment because we're just kind of a sea turtle, so he's not going to plan at the moment. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so we've fallen out.
Oh.
But it's all right. We'll get back together. We'll have a relationship eventually.
Have a bit of therapy, the two of you, and get through it.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we just need a bit of space, and then and then we'll kind of get back together, and hopefully I'll sort of like finish him off. He's not got much to do, but yeah, he's definitely been an effort. Like I say, that's been a good sort of 2 weeks in progress, whereas the elephants I think were much quicker.
Wow. Even for the size, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So but I guess that's you'll do a piece and it just goes right. It goes the way you want it to right from the beginning, and you can tell. Certainly I can, I'm sure most artists would say the same, that as soon as you start to paint, you know whether it's going to go the way that you want it to go or not. And some paintings, the paintings that do that, they all just it just kind of falls onto the canvas and just goes the way you want right from the beginning. And then there's others that you've really almost got to argue with to keep going and kind of get them to where you want them to be. And then for me personally, I'm never as happy with them. If other people will look at them and go, oh my God, I really like that, but I'll always look at the bits and go, yeah, no, that nose isn't right, or yeah, that eye, I'm sure that eye's not right, or you look at the bits that you don't like rather than the whole picture.
Yeah, I mean, is that something that you've, a follow-up question, is that something that's annoyed you or been frustrating throughout being an artist?
Frustrating.
Yeah,
Definitely, I find it frustrating. I think because also as well, I can see those bits. Other people might not look at them and see them in the same way as I do, but I can look at them. So whenever I look at something and I think there is a particular bit that I've just worked on so much to try and get it the way that I want to, and I feel that I've had to settle, it hasn't necessarily gone the way that I wanted it to go, but I've settled with okay on that particular part of that particular painting. So then whenever I look at it, I'm frustrated with it because I wish I could have done that particular bit better.
is it hard to know when to stop then?
Yes, yeah, I think it's running the risk of overworking. Definitely. You definitely know when to step away. And there's many a times that I will be quite happy doing the painting that I'm doing, but I'll put it down, and whether it's just taking a break and just walking out of the room and being away from it for 20 minutes, because whenever you go back to it, you will see it with a fresh eye, and sometimes that's really important to because it'll just jump out at you. You'll have been working on a bit and you won't be getting it right, but then you'll go away, come back and go, oh, actually no, it is right. Or oh, okay, now I see that part is too dark and I need to lighten it up. Or and a difference can be made in one brush stroke.
Amazing. Yeah, no, I think I'd be just, even though I'm not a painter, I'd just be going over and over things because I'm a perfectionist, so I'd just be making myself that way. I think you have to learn to, if you're a perfectionist, and I'm the same, I'm very much a perfectionist, you have to learn to put that down. You have to learn to leave the perfectionism to the people that can produce photorealism pictures, and but I think it's something that you definitely have to try and walk away from, which isn't easy when you're used to doing that in your everyday life. It's not easy with accepting what you think is just okay. Yeah, and it must be
what you think is just what you think is just okay, a lot of people will go, oh my god, that's amazing. So Do you paint?
No, I wish I did. I used to when I was younger. I did, but I did one canvas, which I think I still have somewhere, which was an acrylics of some flowers, and it was so just flat. It was not very 3D at all. It was just very 2D and very bright colours that should have been there. But I kind of just did it.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like getting older, just like the time. I think that's the thing that everyone says is like, haven't got the time to sit and do it. And yes, we had lockdown, and I should have maybe tried something more creative then. But it's just that time period. I think when you get older and trying to prioritize things, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
But I have to. I think talking to all the artists this summer, I feel like I'm gonna have to do some workshops, or I'm gonna have to get out a paintbrush.
Has everybody been trying to push you into doing it?
It's just been so exciting and so interesting hearing from everyone. It's just been so lovely. It's like, you could do it. Anyone could do it. You just have to start. And everyone's been saying is just give it a go.
I mean, I hear that quite a lot. People will say, oh, I really wish I could draw. I really wish I could paint. You can. If you can write, then you can draw, because it's just a shape. That's all it is. It's just several shapes put together in different colours or different lights that make up a picture. And that's all it is. And I think people put too much kind of emphasis on, it being absolutely perfect, and they don't have that ability. You do. Everyone has that ability. If there isn't a human being out there that can do it, so can you. It might take you twice as long. You might really struggle with it. But if someone else can do it, there is absolutely no reason why you can't do it. So it's and I think if you enjoy the process, then you get there a lot quicker.
True. I think I'm gonna have to pull some pencils out at least, or some paints this summer.
Do it.
I think Thank you so much. It's been so
No, it's been a pleasure. It's lovely to meet you.
Yeah, and I look forward to. Will you be at the exhibition?
I will. Yes.
Or hopefully be there and see you and say hello.
Yes, lovely. Yes, definitely.
If the sea turtle's behaving, and
we'll see. We'll see.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Megan. Take care.